I am now drinking a Pacific Rain Northwest Pale from Ninkasi Brewing because that's the only beer that I drink ever. This is it's a 5.4%. No, I'm drinking it because it's tasty.
What are you drinking tonight? I missed it.
Pacific Rain.
Gotcha.
From Ninkasi.
Yep, that's a ironic beer.
Yes, it is. It's a pale ale, Bambi.
In the Alanis Morissette version of
Yes, it is definitely Alanis Morissette ironic, as in, it's not.
Isn't it ironic?
Nope.
No, it's not. That's just bad luck. There's a difference.
It's a good song, not good reasoning.
No, and totally fucked up what people think ironic is.
Yeah, I definitely have gone on multiple Wikipedia Google holes trying to make sure that I understand what irony is, so that way I'm not sticking my foot in my mouth, because I've been misled by certain things.
Because sticking your foot in your mouth about irony because you don't understand the definition of ironic would be ironic.
It's so true. It's true, though.
This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
Speaking of bitter things, we're looking at A Bitter Thought, Chapter 45 of Lord of Chaos.
And our symbol is a wolf.
Ow!
Oh. So we start in Vilner... What's his last name?
Barada.
Vilner Barada. So we start in Vilner Barada's head. We get to come up with some of his thoughts, but I think the first relevant... we can talk about those, but I wanted to read us in from where he sees Perrin's column.
Ooh, okay, that's a ways down. Excellent.
Yeah, so that's a page or two in.
Okay, cool, do it.
A long column of farmers, 4 abreast on horseback, made the bulk of it, and there seemed to be wagons behind. Farmers, for sure, in those rough coats, but every one of them, in Vilner's sight, had the longest bow he had ever seen slung across his back, a full quiver at one hip, and a long knife or short sword at the other. Leading the procession was a white banner bordered in red, with a red wolf's head, and a mix of people as odd as the column. There were 3 Aiel afoot, of course, 2 of them maidens, and a fellow whose bright green-striped coat and virulent yellow breeches said he was a tinker, except that he had a sword on his back. He was leading a horse as big as a Nashun draft horse, with a saddle meant for a giant. The leader seemed to be a heavy-shouldered, shaggy-haired fellow with a short beard and a wicked axe on his belt, and at his side rode a Saldean woman in dark, narrow, divided skirts that kept looking up at him with the fondest. Vilner sat forward in his saddle. He recognized that woman. He thought of Lord Bashir and the royal palace right at that moment. More, he thought of Lady Dira, and his heart sank. She was in the palace too. If some Aes Sedai had waved her hand and turned that column to Trollocs, Vilner would have been overjoyed. Maybe this was the price for daydreaming. Had he kept his mind on his duty, the patrol would have been long past here by now. Still, he had his orders. Wondering whether Lady Dira would have his head for a ball, he deployed his men in the gate.
Such a funny intro.
Such a funny intro.
Because you're seeing Perrin from the outside, which is cool, but you're getting this like major insight into Saldae and like kill the messenger sort of tempers.
Right? He's like, oh no, I'm caught between Lady Faile and her mother. This is not gonna go well.
He's like, I will be killed cathartically. This is not great. And much before that, he was thinking of the girl he wants to marry, and it's like, goodbye to that. You're dead.
Yeah. I mostly just thought it was like there's gonna be a lot of turmoil.
Yeah, no, it's all hyperbole for sure.
Yeah.
But it's hilarious.
I mean, did you want to go into any of Vilner's backstory? The first page of this is all about, like, him growing up and the...
Yeah, there's not a lot in it. There's just... It's one of those passages where we get a sense for how rumor percolates outward, right? We actually get into the POV of somebody who genuinely believed that there were 100 Aes Sedai at the inn where the Two Rivers girls were, and who thinks that Aes Sedai are immortal, and if you're not sure you're looking at one, then you definitely aren't. And it's one of the few times we get to see the peon's view of our main class of characters.
And we definitely see her, like, see an Aes Sedai being like, oh, he could not have said how old she was, but that was not enough. And I was like, no, that's exactly what it is. That's what you're looking for. Like, he sees an Aes Sedai and goes, that couldn't possibly be an Aes Sedai. That's not enough. If I don't know I'm looking at an Aes Sedai, it couldn't be one. So, yeah, it's a good common soldier POV. But Vilner never, like, really pops up again. He's not.
No, I didn't look him up. Yeah, he's not important, but that's just really all I wanted to point out about him. Is it's like, this is what it feels like to be someone who doesn't know what's going on and totally taken in by rumors. That's what he is.
And we get some background about the city, that, like, the thieves come running to the Saldaeans because he'd rather be taken in by the Saldaeans than punished by the Aiel.
Oh, yeah, that's an important bit of, like, here's how local politics are developing. The Aiel are as terrifying as usual.
And if only we had, like, an Amarylline Seat trained by them, ready to take over. Yeah.
It's too bad that's not gonna happen.
Right. Ugh, Little Tower has no idea what's coming for them.
Oh my god, right? Yeah.
They got on back of a lion, and they didn't realize it. They thought it was a sleeping kitty.
Definitely. It's so delightful to watch them just shrinking into their rightful place. Anyhow, that's not what's happening here. What's happening here is Perrin is back.
So we get Perrin back, woo! Which is awesome. So excited for Perrin back. I know some of you aren't agreeing with me on this, but, like, oh man, Perrin's my man. I love him. I love him. I love Faile. That whole honor and leadership and doing what he can for his people, and just the wolf dream and everything just makes him, he's such a badass. I love him.
He is a total badass. It just takes him way too long to admit it and lean into it.
Yes.
That's what's frustrating about him, is because he could have been so much more badass so much sooner if he just believed in what a badass he was.
Yeah. Hey, Aradia, you don't know anyone else with imposter syndrome, do you?
Okay, first of all, shut up. I walked right the fuck into that. God damn it. I'm just gonna go drown in my alcoholism real quick. Don't mind me.
Uh-huh. It might be that what we find the most frustrating in others is things that we see in ourselves.
It's true.
Why can't he just believe in himself? I just want him to. Oh, wait.
In fairness, I had a really, really good conversation with a grandmother the other day and have been kicked a few steps closer to actually seeking therapy like an adult. So
Huzzah.
that's a thing that's happening. I'm an adult. I can go to therapy in Zoom, obviously, because it's a pandemic. I next had highlighted that Faile said she was not worried about her mother, but Perrin knows that she's quaking in her boots over the whole Dira situation.
Yeah. No, I love the way he expresses that, where it's like, she said she's not worried about her father. That didn't seem to worry her. She says she's not worried about her mother. She said. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because she smells of anxiety, and she says neither of her parents worries her, and he's like, uh-huh.
I don't believe you. And this is where we start to get the fact that Perrin reacts not to what Faile does and says, but to how she smells.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be very careful, especially in this chapter, because I feel like this is where we establish a pattern. And let's look a little bit at how Perrin thinks about how Faile reacts and how Faile actually reacts to things.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you just look at her actions, she is entirely reasonable and nice and courteous.
Mm-hmm.
Don't judge someone based on their emotions. You cannot base someone judged based on their emotions. And that's what people are doing to Faile when they complain about her, because we know what she's actually feeling because of Perrin's nose.
Right.
Yes, those emotions aren't necessarily the best emotions, but she doesn't act on them.
Yeah, she does. It comes across to people who know what to look for. Like, Min reports to Rand basically what Perrin reports to us about Faile's feelings, right? at the end of this chapter, they go off and talk.
Sure.
And then Min comes back and tells Rand, like, oh, she basically wanted to make sure that I was firmly attached to not her husband, so that way she could be cool, and then she was off to the next thing. So we kind of get a confirmation. So it does come through if you're, like, the kind of person who pays attention, I guess.
I'm not gonna say Faile's not a jealous person.
Right, like she uses the language of fans to communicate, right? Like she's an emotive person. But yeah, it's hard to sometimes remember how much she looks like a reasonable person to anyone who can't read emotions. Like, truly read emotions.
Right.
And it's very much like a Matt thing, right? Like what you say, what you think, and what you do are not the same thing. We extend
what
a lot.
You smell.
Yeah. We extend a lot more flexibility and compassion to Matt's inconsistencies than we do to Faile as a fandom.
I'm nodding to that, yeah.
Yeah, we should... I think you're right. This is a really good chapter to kind of maybe set our expectations aside and actually look at the contextual evidence of what's happening and take that forward into our judgments of Faile and Perrin's relationship.
Coming back to the book, can I just say how disturbing Aram's comment is?
Ugh, that's the next thing I have too, is like, from the way of the leaf to just casual murder, like, no fucking in between.
Oh, there are 10 people in our way. Why don't you and I just go ahead and cut them down? Not that they're fighting us, challenging us, they just happen to be standing in our way. I think Aram's Perrin's biggest failing.
Agree.
He ignores the danger signs of Aram right next to him and just lets him continue to be a warrior instead of shutting that shit down.
Yeah, he looks at Aram and his callous disregard for life and says, oh, he's having a rough day. It's like, Perrin, excuse me, he's having more than a rough day. He has no value set to attach to life whatsoever, and he is flailing. Flailing. It's awful that Perrin is so ignorant of how much Aram needs half a friendly gesture, half a hand in help. He needs so little to give him any direction, and what does he get? He gets hero worship and zealotry and violence.
And that's why he ends up attaching himself to
Massima.
The prophet, Massima.
Yeah.
You know, he's just looking for some sort of leadership, some sort of guidance, and he's willing to attach himself to anything because, you know, when he lost the way of the leaf, it left this giant void in his life, and he's just trying to fill it with anything and not being particularly discriminating about it.
Yeah, and he finds in Perrin a leader who doubts himself, and he finds in Massima a leader who doesn't doubt himself ever.
Mm-hmm.
His blind faith in himself is exactly what Aram needs after 6 months of being left adrift by a leader who's consumed by imposter syndrome.
I wouldn't say Aram needs that. I'd say he needs something else. He needs love and affection.
He was set up to be completely susceptible to what Massima has to offer.
Right.
And it reminds me of Perrin and Faile thinking about how Elida is going to be harder to break but easier to mold if he does.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the way of the leaf kind of sets people up with this very binary set of values, and if you renege on one piece, you renege on the whole thing.
I found that to be true with a lot of people who have deep religious beliefs who have then lost them, is oftentimes they go through a period of time of, I wouldn't necessarily call it searching, but sort of looking, I would call it searching for some sort of belief system that to fill that hole in their life. And, you know, it's easy, it can be easier to walk away from religion than to stay away from it.
Yeah, I can see that though, because religion has so much aspects of community and other really positive neurological feedback loops that are reasonably addictive to a social creature such as
and also just, I mean, people crave some sort of belief that there's some greater good, that there's some reason, there's some control, there's some direction. And that I feel like is how Aram falls down, is he's like, now I see it. Now the prophet showed me you were actually evil this whole time, right? Like, this sort of belief, he falls into this weird belief system that isn't really accurate in order to substitute for his way of the belief system.
Well, right, because first he has a complete worldview, and then it gets stripped away, and everything he fills it with is far too simple and one-dimensional to actually encompass, like, a holistic life view, and so, you know, Massima's confidence fills up the gaps.
Right. And Mishima shows all of the danger signs of a cult leader prophet type.
Oh my
person.
god, totally. He is everything wrong with zealotry and cults of personality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's not one of the people who's self-aggrandizing, but it's the same kind of corrosive personality. And, like, I think Aram really easily could have been turned to anything other than violence, you know? Like, he could have turned into another Valen Luca. He could have become a medic. He could have become a Fletcher. Like, there's so many... It just took one person realizing that he was completely fucked up. But no, everyone's just like, he made his choice. He'll figure it out.
I think Valen Luca and Aram are like two alternatives for failed Tinkers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I completely stand by that headcanon. That Valen Luca left the way of the leaf. Aram needed to run away and join the damn circus.
Yeah. Or at least left Tinkers. I don't know. I've never seen Valen Luca do any violence or eat any meat.
Exactly. He wears obnoxious colors, and he's completely confident in his way of life, and he never sits still in one place for very long. Like, that's my headcanon, and nobody's gonna change it.
And he's a big flirt and a pretty dude, and yeah.
And he's really interested in entertainment. Like, hey, do you have the next hot single? You know, I mean, Have You Found the Song becomes being a talent scout for cool acts, right? Well, yeah, Keith, Luca does roll up his sleeves to fight the Shan-Chan, but that's mostly as an act. Luca is not at all comfortable getting into a fight. And I think he did leave the way of the leaf. I do think that he decided it wasn't for him for whatever reason. And so he doesn't have an issue with fighting, aside from the part where it would definitely break one of his nails.
Bruise his hands. Don't hit the face! Don't hit the face!
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
yeah,
not the face, not the face!
That's Luca, definitely.
Completely.
All right, so back to Perrin.
Yeah, Perrin is calm and not inclined to random acts of violence.
No. Well, unless
They're not
you happen to
random.
know where his wife is. Well,
That's not random.
My name is Perrin Ibarra. I think Rand Althor will want to see me.
No big deal.
Very
I know
simple.
the
No big
Dragon
deal.
Reborn. It's fine. Just let me in. I totally know the owner.
Totally.
And then dude mentions who he is very specifically with respect to Davra and Bashir.
Right. Be like, I recognize that lady right there, because that's the lady Faile.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it, but I'm saying it.
And like up to that point, she'd been like keeping her head down and like covering her face. And then once he's like, I am blah, 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 and Faile's like, fine, and like stares daggers at him. She like looks up and scowls.
Right, well, because probably like he's one of the many people she pestered for lessons in hand-to-hand combat when she was a kid, you know? Like,
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
yeah, I mean, what is it? Under Lieutenant Swordsworn? I totally bet that he's been around for a while and knew Faile when she was growing up. I think it's not just, oh, that's the daughter of my lord. It's like, oh god, not her. Oh no, we're so screwed. Next thing I had to note was that Daniel Lewin is here.
Yeah, Daniel.
Almost Taviran.
The almost fourth boy.
Yes, the almost fourth boy. He's here in charge as Perrin makes his entrance back onto the story. Daniel at least gets a tiny itty bitty little bit of recognition.
Right. A beanpole of a man with a thick mustache that almost hid his mouth. For being the same age, he's got a hell of a mustache.
I know, right? That's why I had to look him up, because I'm like, that's a thick mustache at 22? Really? Like, okay.
That does seem a little rare, yeah.
I mean, some people are outliers. It's a thing. But yeah, I had to look him up just to be like, this is the fourth Taviran, right? Yes, it is.
Totally. This is the one who, for context, Robert Jordan said he originally planned on having 4 boys leave the 2 rivers, and Daniel Lewin was the 4th boy. And that Harriet was like, you don't have anything to do for 6 books. And well, here he is in book 6, doing something.
Yeah.
I doubt that's what he was originally supposed to be doing, but she had him cut it just because she's like, no one's going to hang out with him for 6 books just to wait and find out what his purpose is.
It's like, honestly, in hindsight, bad take. We totally would have.
Fair, but I'm not sure we would have gotten there.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. I definitely, like, from where they were sitting, that was a really reasonable decision. But, like, in hindsight, we totally would have been here for it.
Mm-hmm. So he basically says, you gotta send most of your people back, you can bring in 50, and he just sends everybody back. He doesn't bring in...
Yeah, he takes in Faile.
Right.
He's like, well, then me and the lady will go in. That's it.
Well, and the Aiel go with him as well.
Oh, don't they take off and do their own thing?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that's... Do they go with him? They go in, whether or not they don't go with him.
Right, and then they split off and go find their fellow Aiel.
But I honestly wonder even if Vilner would have bothered to stop them, because they're just Aiel, right? Like, who's gonna count
I
Aiel?
don't think
Yeah,
so.
he would have been like, I guess they can do whatever they want.
Aiel go where they want to go. Like, nobody tells the Aiel where to go, except maybe the Lord Dragon sometimes.
He asks.
Yeah, exactly.
I like this line. Women always seemed either amused or angry when talking of men.
Well, I mean, that does seem to be the case.
You're like, yeah.
I mean,
Y'all are dumb or funny?
on the other hand, I think about everybody that way. So, there's that.
Yeah, again, gendered responses that apply to everybody.
Yeah, it's like guys, gals, and non-binary pals. You are either all amusing or infuriating. These are the two modes that other people can fit into.
Sometimes they're sexy.
This is true. This is definitely another layer that can be added. Most of the time, actually.
All right, settle down.
Everyone, welcome to the pantry.
So yeah, he notices that Saldeans didn't really look surprised at the Aiel because they're used to them. There's a shit ton of Aiel in the city. And then we get this sort of Gaul dipping out. Mm-hmm. What is Gaul going to do?
I think he wants to see what they will do. I think he wants to see if they follow him or not.
Yeah? You think this is about Bane and Chiad and trying to get them to, like, chase him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because in the next paragraph down, we have Perrin sort of thinking through the love triangle there, and I love this line. He, Gaul, seemed as affronted as a Two Rivers girl would have been in the same circumstance. Like, Gaul is the girl here.
Yeah.
Right? From the way that Perrin, and to be fair, Rand, would be viewing the situation, like, Gaul is the one being like, so I want to marry you. And then Chiad's like, I just want to fuck.
Right.
And he's like, oh, am I not good enough for you? And it's just all this pearl clutching and like, oh, I love that.
Well, and Bane's like, no, we're good. You want in on this? Like, impress me.
Yeah, and Chiad has her first loyalty to her spear sister and is like, I will absolutely fuck the ever-living shit out of you. So down. Like, join in. This is going to be great. But Gaul just has this very, like...
Well, and Gaul wants to get married, and that involves giving up the spears.
Not for him.
Not for him, but for her. Notice no matter how fucking equality
Yeah. She has to give up her career to marry him. He has to give up chasing tail to marry her. That's not an equal exchange. Especially when he's not apparently a particularly flirtatious person aside from to her. So, Keith, no, he's not head of the Stone Dogs. He has been told by wise ones he might be tapped to be head of the Goshin at some point. Because, yeah, he's too smart for a Stone Dog.
They want to make him a clan chief, but he's not yet.
But yeah, he's not the society chief at all.
I would kind of assume after the last battle he goes and becomes a clan chief.
Agreed. He has so much G, because he spent, somewhere between 2 days and 2 months in Teleran Riyadh defending the Dragon Reborn on behalf of Perrin Abar, the Wolf King. Like, you do not get more G than that unless you get your feet shredded by a bomb from Grandal. Just saying. And yeah, Metal Deter is right. If Avienda can't get out of being a wise one, Gaul does not get out of being a clan chief.
And someone has to take Rourke's place.
Too
soon.
Though.
Too soon.
They do. He's not Tardad though. He's Goshin, isn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, the clan chiefs are going to, in general, need to be replaced after the last battle. There's a massive depopulation there.
Well, and assuming we still have clans and clan chiefs. I mean, that's the whole thing. Is like there's quite a sea change coming for the Aiel.
Yeah, well, maybe Gaul ends up being one of the leaders of the new societies that help them navigate the Fourth Age and settling into the Dragon's Peace police keeping force and all of that. Maybe that's what Gaul does. Instead of being a clan chief, he helps them forge their brave new world.
Was Ruark the Red Arm? Or was that Gull? I think that was Ruark who said, I'm a Red Arm.
Red Arm?
Red Shield.
Red Arms are Matt's people. Red Shield.
The police force.
Want to say... Yeah, that's Ruark.
Because he's talking to Julian. Okay, anyway.
Yeah,
I was just thinking, like, that would be a really good fit for leading the Aiel people to sort of be the police force of the Brandland, the Westlands.
Oh, yeah, it would be. Yeah, because they're the most like thief takers, and they... Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the good model for that.
But
they're all going to have their place.
Sure.
Right? Stone Dogs would be, more of the, like the bouncers and the domestic dispute settlers. Or something. I don't know.
What do police do in a nation where they're not terrible, abusive assholes?
I don't know, because I live in America, and the only police I know are just slave catchers by another name.
I'm nodding.
But that's none of my business, except it is, because I'm white.
Yeah, exactly. That's none of my business, but it is.
I live in Oregon. God damn it. Next I have Perrin being terrified of Davram.
I did want to talk a little bit about how he kind of writes off his wolves before we get there.
Oh, yeah?
That, like, he's just traveled through the wilderness for 2 months, right? Like, has he not talked to the wolves? Has he not trained with them? Is, like, we're just going to be like, oh, yeah, they were there, and, oh, now we're in a city, so they're not.
Well, he is still kind of in his denial phase.
I guess he's just sensing the wolves. He's not communicating with them. I mean, Hopper's dead.
Right, and he doesn't need them for anything, right? He's in denial until the light of his life is in danger, and then he reaches out.
No, until they cage Shadow Killer.
Oh, right. Yes. Well, that's the other light of his life. Technically.
As opposed to the fabric of his life. The touch, the feel of cotton.
The knit of our lives.
The pattern of our lives.
The times of our lives.
This is the days of our lives.
I watched like 1.5 episodes of that ever, and yet somehow the entire opening graphic is burned into my brain, and I hate it.
Yeah. So my mother was a All My Children watcher my entire life growing up, and so I have watched more hours of All My Children than I would care to. I mean, all in the 90s. It's been a long time. I don't even think it's on the air anymore. I think they finally killed soaps. Wait, are soaps still airing? I don't know. I
aggressively avoid knowing these kinds of things.
Yeah, I really have no idea if soaps are still on the air. I hope they're not. Anyway, yeah, no, that's definitely... I remember I got into one plot line, and it went for like 6 months, and then they just like reset it, and I got so angry. I was like, why would they just undo all that plot character development? I don't understand. And then I realized that's what soaps do. That's how they survive for 100 years online or on air. So they just like don't go anywhere or don't do anything.
Oof.
Oh, that's right. I did read that article. Apparently during COVID, they have been filming kissing scenes in soap operas with mannequins because they can't actually like have people interact. So they're doing the whole thing about a Late Show and Daily Show, yeah, that like they're filming from behind.
God. You know? Oh my god, that is the pandemic. What chaos you have wrought.
So you thought soap operas were bad beforehand? Now you have actors acting solo in a room into a camera into like a mannequin in front of them with the wig of the person they're supposed to be across from.
And you thought soaps couldn't get any more ridiculously artificial.
Stroking the mannequin.
Oh my
Looking
God.
deep into the mannequin's
There's a Daily
eyes.
Show bit about it?
There
I
is.
need to see this so bad. Oh my God, I love the Daily Show. Oh, that's terrible.
So I want to go back to Perrin being afraid of meeting his in-laws.
Yeah, the wrong one, as it turns out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Davram definitely sees himself as a threat to Perrin, so I guess Perrin's worried about the right one.
Right. I think Faile is more worried about the mother, and Perrin is more worried about the father.
Yeah.
And those are legitimate. Like, when they actually end up encountering him, Perrin ends up in the room with Bashir, and they have that whole encounter, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
And then Bashir's like, well, if they haven't killed each other already, we should probably go interrupt.
Yeah, now that we've decided that we're not going to get into a fight, we should go interrupt the real fight.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But yeah, Perrin is thinking he might be a coward after everything he's done because Davram is actually what scares him.
But, this is someone he has heard of before, right? This is Davram Bashir. This is the thing. It's like, there's not very many people that the Bumpkins in the Two Rivers had heard of. But one of the four great generals, I'm pretty sure they knew about him.
That's fair. That's fair. And he's aligned with Rand. So it's like, this is one of Rand's allies already. Like, there's a lot riding on this.
Can you imagine, like, getting in a relationship and then her being like, yeah, I'm actually... Oh, God, what are Obama's kids' names? Malia and
Sasha.
Sasha. I'm like, I'm actually Sasha Obama. And you'd be like, what?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
You're who?
Totally.
You told me your father was a businessman. Like, he traded
Right.
on the stock market, and he's fucking Obama? Like, and maybe not Obama, but maybe, like, someone else in the cabinet or something like that. Yeah, like...
Yeah, totally.
The Two Rivers has not heard of a lot of people, but they have heard of the four great generals.
Yeah, especially as they've been approaching over the last 2 months, and like, oh, Rand has all these Saldeans, and like his right-hand general is Davram Bashir. It's like, oof, okay, so that's my father-in-law. Yikes. He's like, oh yeah, a carefully composed letter might take a couple of days to write. I'm like, I see you, procrastination friend.
I have to reword it 2 or 3 or 6 times and get it approved and then think about it. And I may play a little bit of a few games on my phone while I think about it for 2 or 3 days.
Months.
Yeah. Speaking of which, when do you want to record that announcement that was supposed to be at the beginning of the next episode?
We'll talk about that tomorrow. I cannot believe how completely I forgot about that, honestly. Just like, that was something I brought up in the first place. God damn it.
That's fine. There's 2 or 3 things that I need to do that I am way behind on.
Yeah. I mean, this is part of why I didn't get back to Broken Earth until yesterday. Though it has to be perfect.
I am actually very impressed with you and I for maintaining a release schedule with Watt Spoilers. That we've been incredibly regular with it, and I've been very proud of us about that.
I think it's because we're like holding each other accountable, not dragging each other across the finish line at the last minute.
That really is true.
This is a serious team effort, guys. This is a relay race of not fucking it up.
You know a great way to procrastinate is check up on how the other person is doing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm going to be the committee chair for SpoilerCon, so I'm going to have so many people to manage. I'm not going to get anything done. I'm going to have so much to procrastinate with. So I have so many other people to check up on. It's going to be great.
And we're still looking for at-large committee members.
Correct.
Correct.
We're still looking for at-large committee members and a tech coordinator. If any of you want to reach out to us, details will be forthcoming shortly.
Guys, I mean, it's really looking like SpoilerCon is going to be like one of the first in-person cons we're going to be able to have after this frickin' pandemic. And I'm really excited about that. And I'm hoping.
Well, it'll go well. But
yes.
We're hoping that it will happen in person as well as online. It will go well because it's us. So
I you know what I mean. I'm hoping that like the pandemic is the vaccines are all there and everything's like because we've got some really things lined up. Anyway,
it would be so great if we could. It's entirely possible. Let's all think very positive thoughts in that direction
and go get vaccinated.
That reality, yes. Manifest effective vaccines and then go get them with your physical body on top of your manifestations.
And if you know anyone who's anti-vaxxer, tell them to go freaking stick a needle in their eye.
Yeah, basically.
Literally, yeah.
Well, preferably with the vaccine in it.
Yeah. So he rides up and he sees the I call it the Aes Sedai banner, the ancient dragon banner, not the one with the dragon, but the one with the Aes Sedai symbol on it.
Yes.
Why do you think he's not flying the dragon banner and just the ancient symbol of the Aes Sedai?
I honestly have no idea. Like, he has no reason to... Maybe he's trying to send a message to the Aes Sedai that he wants to work with them on his terms?
I think it's more of an acknowledgement that Caemlyn isn't ruled by the dragon, but is ruled by, like...
Oh.
You know, there is sort of an association with the One Power there. I think it's yes, he is the dragon, and yes, he is ruling this town, but he's not he's not putting the dragon banner over everything.
He didn't conquer Andor. The dragon isn't possessing Andor. He's not claiming Andor. He's stewarding Andor the best he knows how. Yeah, okay, yeah, because he does try. You know, Elaine gets super mad at him for his banner etiquette, but he is trying with his banner etiquette to be respectful of everything to do with Elaine's relationship to Andor.
And putting the Lion Throne on a pedestal wasn't designed to say it's a trophy. It was designed to be like, I'm not sitting on that. That's for the ruler. You know, like, he's trying. He's an idiot, but he's trying.
Yeah, exactly. His heart is very much in the right place, and intent always comes behind impact, but, like, he should get some credit. So yeah, I think you're right. I think that his choice of banner here is about that. It makes more sense than my complete blank, because Perrin points out that it's an important question, ergo there is an answer.
Right. That's why I asked. And it's one of those things where I didn't have an answer until we started recording, and we sat down and talked about it. So
Blah.
that's why we do this.
Yes, it is.
He's heard some very disturbing tales and rumors. I assume that's the male channeling farm.
Yeah,
he's talking
that Rand
about.
is gathering men to channel, and there's probably getting complicated with Dragonsworn atrocities. Perrin doesn't necessarily know what's true and false, and honestly, the Black Tower's horrifying from where Perrin is sitting. The concept of men who can channel gathering. He's not ready for that.
I mean, until the power gets cleansed, it is a terrifying thought.
Yeah.
You're handing nuclear-level power to a bunch of insane men. Men who could go insane at any time. Like, and you know, and the one thing about the One Power that I've always really liked is it is very much an offensive magic, not a defensive magic. And, like, there are domes and stuff, and there are some defenses, but, like, it's not like you can, if you get fucking stabbed in the heart, you don't heal from that. There's no, like, Stormlight to heal you back to perfect. You don't you know, you can't, like, pop back to fine. You die. Like, you are fragile, and you are throwing around. And that's why it's one of the reasons why I think the power is such a good analogy for guns.
Mm-hmm.
Is that you have all this power at your disposal and almost no way to defend yourself from it.
Yeah, totally. I never really thought about it like that, but you're right. It's very much like you can move mountains, but you are exactly as squishy as somebody who can't.
Exactly.
It's a really interesting vulnerability. Does that make them all glass cannons? Is that what glass cannon means?
That's what glass cannon means, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Is that you can fire quite a bit of power, but any hit will just fracture you and make you're very squishy, you know.
Yeah, so yeah, Aes Sedai and men who can channel Ashaman, as they've just been christened. Yeah, they do have to be very offensive and very, like, fuck around and find out kind of attitude, because otherwise they'll be dead before they can prove how badass they are.
Exactly, yeah. No, I imagine that most channeling battles are incredibly short.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's more about the posturing and build up to the actual act than anything else. Which is probably why it's discouraged so strongly amongst Aes Sedai, because it's pretty devastating.
Because if you actually have to, you know, that's the thing, where like, oh, they're so close in power, they actually have to duel to find out. And it's like, I imagine most of those duels do end in death.
Right, or then there's, like, what we see with Brandon Sanderson's interpretation of the Red Aja. Like, they trained to, like, spar in a hand-to-hand combat way that is augmented by the power.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really something we don't see until Brandon Sanderson, and I think that it's him attempting to make the Red Aja more relatable. Honestly, I don't really feel like that was an RJ idea.
I don't even know what you're talking about, to be perfectly honest.
It's the scene where Andrel and Pavara are fighting with each other before the double bonding.
Gotcha.
And they're, like, pulling each other's ankles out and also trying to slam down shields and having this whole, like, highly magically augmented hand-to-hand scuffle where they're not trying to kill each other, they're just trying to get the upper hand, and it reads very Brandon Sanderson and, like, nothing Robert Jordan would ever read.
Yes, that's a very Sanderson way to write a conflict scene.
And then it ends with the double bonding, because they both get a little bit desperate and lose control. Yeah, offensive magic with very few defensive attributes. Very min-max.
So we're back to Perrin and his dream of living in a house, small house, somewhere in the country, far from cities and strife.
I do think that's going to happen.
If I say gonads and strife, do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
Nope.
Fair enough. Moving on. It involves squirrels. That's all I'm going to say.
I love squirrels. Alright, fine, whatever. You hear the click of a keyboard. What am I about to be subjected to?
One of the earliest internet memes that I can imagine. And it makes zero sense. It's completely crazy. I'd recommend nobody watch this, ever.
What am I watching? I'm watching it right now. Okay, I'm a better person now. As a result of that, thank you.
So that's like 2004 memes coming back out at you.
Oh, wow. I am so pleased with that momentary distraction.
Going into the
to
light,
Brandon, and we're going to die.
Yeah.
Going as a strife.
Going as a strife.
Yeah, I was not really on the internet a whole lot in the early 2000s. Certainly not appreciating the absurdity that was going to morph into my generation's signature humor style. Millennials have the weirdest humor. It's just what we do. There's always strife around Rand. Dun, dun, dun.
Done. And gonads.
And gonads. And more gonads. Gonads of steel. Gonads of Quendiar.
Where did we go off the rails, Aradia?
Probably around when I had my 7% beer that I killed.
You terrible person. I'm only
I
halfway
know
through
it's
a box
broken.
of wine.
I need to go fix my beer.
No.
It's so broken. But I'm willing to attempt to stick on track. Oh god, there's so many pages left. We're never gonna get through this.
We have not done well. Oh, okay.
Okay, focus.
So, Perrin.
Siswayamon.
Yes. So we do see a lot of Siswayamon.
Why are they here? I forget why Siswayamon come into existence. I associate them with Dumai's Wells, but this is way pre-Dumai's Wells.
They're just the Spears of the Dragon. This is the Bleakness.
Right. This is one of the branching paths out from the Bleakness.
And so, rather than throw down your spear and declare yourself being like, oh, the way of the leaf, what you say is, I have toe, and the only way for me to get rid of that toe is to become an object in possession of the Dragon Reborn. I am a spear of the dragon, and that is it. I am a possession of his. I do what he wants. I attack where he wants. I have no personal opinions. I am just... Yeah, I'm not part of a clan. I'm not part of a society. I am simply a spear of the dragon.
I do think they stay in their societies, though. It's not like the Brotherless, who go to the Shido and just form a contingent. Like, they all stay within their clan structures, but they just add this symbol to themselves that nobody ever talks about.
Sure, right. But it is this declaration that I am here to fight for the dragon.
Right, yeah, no, you're right. It's very much like I could either kill myself, become permanent Guy Shine, or become an object with which to slay the Dark One on behalf of the Karakarn.
Right. And either way, all of those are denying their own humanity.
Yeah, it's all a death of self, regardless.
Keith is saying the Brotherless kept their societies.
Really?
Even though they lost their clans.
I thought that they were all lumped together into being the Brotherless.
Well, that's how they go to the Shido. They go to their society in the Shido.
Oh, but I thought that the Maidens do that, where the Shido Maidens come to join the Maidens. But when Faile is captive with the Shido, like, the Brotherless are very much apart from the Shido.
Metal Deterra is agreeing with you.
Yeah, so the Siswayamon stay in their societies. The Shido Maidens, some of them, come to their society with Rand.
Keith led me wrong. Keith!
No, we love you, Keith. Thank you for being here. Thank you for participating and poking holes in our theories, even when there's bigger holes in your theories. Oh, Gaul was the Stone Dog head in tier? Okay.
Just saying.
Okay.
Unless you're
that's
misleading us again, Keith, which is entirely possible.
Yeah, at this point, your track record is terrible. So, you know.
I've got my eye on you, Keith.
Oh, okay, you looked it up. All right. No, that's fair. I am surprised that Gaul went with Perrin if he was the society leader on this side of the Dragon Wall. That seems like an odd dereliction of duty.
I mean, wasn't he captured in a cage?
Okay, so you're saying that his loyalty to Perrin overrides his loyalty to his sept.
Okay,
that's fair.
A lot. Yeah.
And he would have a second in command to be like, yo, I'm dipping out for a greater honor. It's on you now.
And that's
a thing.
Perrin. That's the other thing, is like, he's also like, Perrin, second to Dragon Reborn, Kara Karn, like, this person might be important to support. Like, I don't think Gaul is unaware of the significance of Perrin.
Right, plus the blood debt, plus he's a good leader. Like, what isn't a yeoman not to like about Perrin as a person to follow?
See, we get this Lirin, who is just another, as far as I can tell, a maiden who pops up a couple of times. Nothing significant there.
Yep. No clan, no sept, no alive or dead status at the end of the last battle. Just a maiden.
Just a maiden.
All maidens are important, but, like, she's not one of the really important ones.
And then we get what I love, this Perrin Rand encounter, which is honestly one of my favorite Two River boys.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
not even just reunion. It's one of the few times we never really get all three of them together, but we get a good Matt Rand reunion during the last battle. But this is the best Perrin Rand reunion.
Well, there's a Perrin Rand reunion at the end. Yeah, because there's the whole, like, what did Mistress Marinalvier say when she found you and Faile at the bottom of the stairs after you'd been stabbed with a
that's right.
arrow? There's a bit of a reunion, but it's mostly off screen. We kind of pan into the end.
Yeah.
And this one we actually see.
The Matt Rand one is much more in your face.
Yeah, the back and forth.
Mm-hmm. I rescued Moraine. Yeah.
Yeah, that one, the conversation, it was more on screen, but it didn't feel quite as natural. It felt a little more forced.
Yeah.
I kind of liked the fade to candlelight thing with Perrin and Rand, where it was, like, at the end of the story. Like, but I mean, the point here is that there's not nearly enough reunions between these three throughout the series.
No. They go off to do their own thing, and it's like, dude, I want these boys to get back together. Same thing with Moraine. Like, we've spent the last 5-6 books being like, oh, these characters are great, and now they're awesome, and I really want to see them get back together, and there's not enough.
Yeah, this is a very rare reunion scene to happen in the middle. We get almost no reunions for Rand before Zen Rand. Most of the reunions happen after, when he's, like, in such a place of detachment it barely even matters.
Well, and until then, he's sending everybody away. He's deliberately staying away from them because he thinks he's a danger.
Yeah, and we do get that here when he tells Perrin he won't go to see the men in the camp.
Yep.
Because he wants to protect them.
Because anyone he cares about is in danger. And we see that from Fane's POV. Fane is like, well, if he doesn't care about his village, he's not going to give a shit about those chits from the Two Rivers in the hotel. And, like, if he'd actually gone back to defend the Two Rivers, those girls would have all been dead. And
so many Caemliners along with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really true.
Yeah, Darth Rand has no friends.
I like what Lillian said, like, this is a statement on adulthood. Like, I'd really like to see you again. Ensuing scheduling conflicts.
Right.
Like ensuring scheduling conflicts. Ensuing scheduling conflicts, honestly. Yeah. Adulthood is the worst for trying to get people together.
Listen, I'd love to hang out, but I just got back from work and my pants are off. So that's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, I already opened up the Netflix tab.
Right.
So
I guess I'm not going out tonight. I have taken
off my bra. We are done. It's true, Lilyjan. It's true. God, I haven't worn a bra in so long. I put one on for New Year's just to feel like I was going somewhere fancy.
Me too,
like,
Radia.
I'm going to wear a dress. Oh, really?
Just to feel fancy. No, actually, so I got dressed up. What the fuck did I get dressed up for? Yeah, it was New Year's. I put on a collared shirt and a jacket, and I met Never at the door, and she was like, what the fuck? And I was like, I don't know, it's New Year's. I'm going to be dressed up. I'm going to put on my gray camel wool coat that I freaking love that I don't ever get to wear.
Yeah, I put on a coat, this beautiful coat I have that's all embroidered. I wore it for like 5 whole minutes, but it was still like I put it on and wore it around and then threw it on the couch, as you do at a bar when it's too warm, right? Like, I wore heels that I normally can never wear because they're way too tall to walk in, and I'm not going to walk 8 blocks across town in these crazy high heels, but I own them.
And so there's a lot of recap here that is just so much fun to read, but I'm not sure there's a lot to talk about, right? Like,
yeah.
Lord Perrin of the Two Rivers, what does Mistress Luhan say to that? She calls me Lord Perrin. It's just like, I love it, but
It's cute and sweet, and it's a reunion. And it's, again, kind of like with Vilnar seeing the 100 Eyes Sedai in the rumors. Like, this is a chance for two people who both generate rumors to get together and compare notes on the relative rumors that they've been generating.
Right. Well, the number of times people are like, just get together and talk. And like, well, that's what they do. They're actually sitting together and talking and like catching up. Yeah.
Yeah. This is an instance in which they actually do talk. They even, on the next page, they even talk about women. Oh, you're so good with women. What's the key? Oh, I wish Matt was here. Like, they actually talk about it and get exactly nowhere.
Well, I love the fact that the conclusion they come to is that Matt is the one who's good with women. Whoever's not there. Yeah, of course. Even though one of them's married and the other one's dating 3 women.
Yeah, and Matt's still single.
Single? I mean...
Apparently being good with women is being unattached to them. What? That's not what either of them is trying to say, but that's the conclusion one can draw.
That is the conclusion, yeah.
It's ridiculous. And I love how happy Rand is for them. I just love seeing Rand happy, because Rand is never happy, but for this brief 30-second period, he can just be excited that his best friend got married, which is just cute.
It is cute. It is really cute. And the fact that he got that news from home, and I like this chapter because it makes me feel good. Like, when I hear Michael Kramer reading Rand, there's genuine joy in his voice.
Yeah. His voice gets really warm for these passages.
It's amazing to me just how impactful Michael Kramer's interpretation of the characters still affects my interpretation of the text.
There's no cynicism in this, because Michael Kramer did not read it with cynicism.
Right? Yeah. No, and that's where I Michael Kramer and Kate Redding are, they're not second authors, but they shape a significant portion of how I picture these books in my head. They are second tier authors. They interpret the series.
Yeah, kind of like the engineer or the, mixer person in an album. Like, what the engineering and post-production is on an album matters as much as the content, if you have a really good or a really bad example thereof.
And that's what I love so much about The Wheel of Time, is it's an amazing book written by an amazing man, edited by an amazing woman, read by amazing people. It's like, every single person in the pipeline for Wheel of Time is amazing.
Yeah.
Including, hopefully, the actors.
So far, I'm feeling optimistic.
Faile had very few faults, but she did have a slight tendency towards jealousy. Slight!
Slight.
So
and
slight.
Perrin has a slight tendency to underemphasize her flaws.
Slight.
It is also sweet to see Perrin reuniting with Min, because the last time that they saw each other was in The Dragon Reborn, after all the shenanigans in the mountains, and Perrin thought that maybe Min was crushing on him, and then she wasn't, because it's actually Rand, and they haven't seen each other since then. So this is a really nice secondary reunion.
So that was when they were in the Mountains of Mist.
And then Rand takes off being like, I have to finish everything. And Min gets sent to the tower, and Perrin goes along with Moraine to chase Rand. Right.
Yeah, so this was before the whole fucking tower split. I mean, yeah, no, it's been a while, so.
Yeah, it's before Tyr, it's before the tower split. So much has happened, and it's very much this, oh my god, I haven't seen you in years sort of reunion. And, of course, Faile just cannot keep her emotions in check. But as you said, her behavior is completely acceptable.
I met them right after they left the Two Rivers. They thought Barillon was a grand city. Oh, it takes me back. It takes me way back to the Wheel of Time.
Yeah. Oh, those wool-headed sheep herders.
And now they're kings and queens and Amerlins and
lords, generals.
Right? Yeah. No, it's. Whew. These are no longer. I mean, they're not gods yet.
Yeah, but we're on book 6 of 14, so
right. They've lost the adult in the room, and they have stepped up to become their own adults and realize that they need to pretty much take control of their own destiny, and that the people around them don't necessarily know any more or know any better than them.
And here's Faile and Min just like, wow, so we apparently scored big time at the bargain bin. That was unexpected.
I like Faile's initial, like, stay away from my man, and then realizing, oh, wait, you're in love with Rand. Yeah, you're cool.
Yeah, no, once she realizes that Min is completely besotted, she's like, oh, you're fine. You're fine. Which, like, on the one hand, it's a little bit like, oh my god, Faile, grow up. But on the other hand, it's like, if there's ever a person to not be threatened by for Faile, it's definitely Min.
Right.
Like, yeah.
But that just tells you how attractive Min is, that Faile is immediately like, oh, this girl. Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Well, Min was cute even before she started trying to put an effort into her appearance, right?
Right.
Like, she's casually cute, and now she's trying. So, cute to 11.
What's funny is I think Faile and Min are the two women I would like to date the most in this series.
Totally, right? Particularly Min. But yeah, they're smart and astute and clever.
Frankly, I need a Faile to run my fucking life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Something to be said for someone who will not take disorganization for an answer.
Meldotura's got a good, they want their partner to be the best version of themselves, right? They are there to support and improve their partners.
I like that. And then Obi Thunder follows up with, Min will make you learn how to do it yourself. Which, like, yeah. That's probably an extremely accurate distinction between the two.
Let's just say Min's going to teach him to do a lot of things. Never mind.
But facts, though.
She is not going to tolerate someone who does not put in the effort.
Min, yep. I'm not going to say it either. I agree.
Nope. Okay.
Religion, I completely understand that aspiring to be Min but suspecting one is actually Faile. That is an entire mood. I'm not jealous, but every other negative aspect about Faile I find intense empathy with. So yes. I would definitely be Faile if I had like way more chutzpah.
Next thing I get is that Loyal is sent off to the abandoned steading, the Arthur Hawkwing steading.
Oh yeah. The whole he's gambling now on how fast he can come back because he can outrun a horse, and that whole like fun little character development on Loyal's part, which is fun.
And also good for him. This is something that, like, when we talk about how long he's out, and his soon-to-be wife, Aerith, and mother and mentor are chasing after him. They're like, he's been out for a long time. I was like, I mean, he got some time. He got a chance to recharge. Yeah,
this was a very important moment for Loyal's ability to stay in the story.
Right. Because I think that, like, if he had, he's been out for 10 years. Well, no, he hasn't. He's actually been back in the steading very recently.
Right,
and, like,
just for a short period, but
very short period of time. But I don't know. We don't know. Like, did that completely refill him back to zero? Did that refill him like halfway? Was that just like 10 days off, 10 days on? Like, probably not.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. And he goes back to a steading for the stump right before the last battle. Yeah, he gets to one way and another. He taps on, and he gets sent off by Rand shortly after Dumais Wells with Carlton to go to all the steading and talk to them about the Waygates.
Right.
So he gets more little top-ups on that trip.
So yeah, that definitely becomes an almost non-issue for him.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
Though I could see the Ogier being kind of like Aes Sedai in the sense that they have prohibitions against things that maybe are a little bit out of scale because they haven't tested it in a long time, because it's not wise to test those things.
My pushback would be the generations are so long, and they actually do have someone who, like, they probably have people who suffered recently, or knew people who suffered from it. Like,
well, my pushback to that is that it's his mother driving the anxiety.
As someone with a mother, you win on that one. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that the fact that he's topping up from the steading does mean that we as the audience don't have to worry that he's about to like expire on us out of nowhere.
Right. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's in concern a little bit in the beginning, and then it's like, no, let's just take care of that. Like,
yeah.
I would love more Loyal from Sanderson.
Oh, man, that would be awesome.
Yeah, we've got very little Loyal in those last 3 books.
Yeah, we have a lot of external POV of Loyal being a badass at a distance. But
To be honest, Loyal's not in the books a whole lot, and I have to wonder if that's not because he's just not that conflicted of a character.
Loyal, you're too wholesome for this story.
It really is. Like, there's just not that much. He's like, well, I don't have anything interesting to say to him, so I'm going to have him go off and do some tasks. But, there's no... Hold on. We never get a Loyal POV, do we?
We do. But that's very, very rare. Less rare than a Varen POV.
Right. I was going to say, like... Maybe he's a dark.
Get out. You're banned from this podcast.
No, we have no examples of an Ogier dark friend. We pretty much assume it's not possible.
No.
Incompatible with their whole life philosophy.
Yeah, it's not. No, it's not a thing.
Not a thing.
But yeah, I mean, even his relationship with Aerith isn't conflicted. Once they're married, like, it's not like the whole keep her out of danger nonsense. Like, all the Ogier go in to clear the fields, and they just fight back to back like a pair, and it's great.
It's very egalitarian society.
Yeah, very much so. They're like, everyone needs to be an absolute intellectual badass, and also it would be great if you could cut down trees. That would be cool, too.
Except the women get to decide who gets married, but,
Right, but I mean, it's not like men really notice, for the most part, if they're married, apparently, in Ogier society. I don't know. I find the rigid gender roles of Wheel of Time only get more rigid in Ogier society, and I feel like that's the opposite of how it should be, and it's frustrating. I feel like people that live so much longer should be more truly egalitarian and less men are from Mars, women Venus.
Yeah, but this book sort of starts on that premise.
Yeah.
That's one of the things when people are like, oh, we can't really differentiate between the genders. It's like, well, this book sort of does, like, male and female halves and binary and balance and these two things. And, like, the Wheel of Time has some issues in modern day society when we talk about not necessarily trying to conform to the binary gender roles when this book is very much based on two genders.
I just find it frustrating that the Ogier who have longer lifespans are more, I feel like they're more flexible, and a chance for RJ to explore the opposite rather than harder into it.
Have you ever met an old person who was less rigid?
I mean, yes, but they're very, very rare.
Long lives are interesting to me because on one level you're like, oh, I could learn so much, and you could have these experts who, like, build up knowledge over time and become, and, like, all of a sudden you think that would be revolutionary, but at the same time, a lot of societal change depends on old people dying.
Yeah.
And so you end up with this somewhat stagnant society that can't change for, if it takes 2 generations to make a significant change, well, in human society, that's 40 years. In Ogier society, that's 600.
I also, though, want to reject the notion that the farther back in time you go, the more bullshit society gets, because that's patently not true. It just happens to be true with our immediate grandparents' generation here in America. But, like, societies flex and go all kinds of directions.
Right, but they do it generationally. I don't think they do it based on... I don't think people change, I think generations change.
Okay, yeah, fair, for sure. And...
that rate of change is dependent on how quickly people are born and die out.
Yeah, so maybe that's why he has the Ogier holding down the bastion of why would you ever consider rejecting gender roles. I don't like it, but I agree with it. Or I agree with the reasoning behind it.
Thanks.
And he can recognize that Rand is suffering from some serious PTSD.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring this up because this is a place where I feel like Jordan is bringing his Vietnam experience into it.
Mm-hmm.
He did not blink often enough, as if a blink might hide what he needed to see. Perrin recognized something of that look. He had seen it on the faces of Two Rivers' men after the Trolloc attacks. After the 5th, the 10th, when it seemed hope was gone, but you went on fighting because the cost of giving up too great.
Yeah, that rings with deep personal knowledge.
That does. Vietnam knowledge.
Yeah, and it's one of the few chances we get to see how messed up Rand is, because Rand is either given to us through his own perspective or through the perspective of people who are pretty warped by being around him, like Min and Nynaeve. They're very focused on him. Perrin's just waltzing in, like, haven't seen you in a few months. Oh, wow, you're fucked up.
Right. It's like when you see a little kid growing up, and, like, if you see them every day, it's not a big deal, but you don't see them for 6 months. It's like, holy crap, you got big.
Mm-hmm. And Perrin knows him better than almost anybody else in the cast, just through sheer duration of relationship. right? He can actually see Rand the child inside Rand the broken adult who's struggling to keep it together.
Totally. Why do you think Min and Faile break off?
To go talk elsewhere, I think Min follows Faile's lead for whatever reason, and I think Faile wants to give Perrin and Rand a chance to catch up.
I have noticed, looking back, my highlights, I did in 2 colors, what Rand and Perrin were talking about and what Faile and Min were talking about, and it does appear to be 2 conversations going on at the same time, like side by side. And I can see where Faile's like, let's go talk somewhere else and let these 2 catch up.
And I mean, I can say from like when I hang out with my family, we almost always instantly initially break into gender groups to catch up and then break apart into larger groups. But like if my mom and I get together at a family gathering, like the first thing we do is we go and we chat and catch up. And like
interesting. Not my experience.
Yeah, no, like Brandon and my stepdad and my uncle, my brother, whoever other than menfolk, it's just like, oh yeah, so they have the Aradia and her mom are now doing their thing. We'll see them in like 45 minutes, like every time.
Can I be honest? My experience is that I often end up with the women folk in those groups.
Yeah.
That like when I go, I'm just thinking of an example when I went to an ex's Christmas and there was a bunch of bros, her dad, her brother, various husbands of her sisters were hanging out in the living room talking sports, and the women were in the kitchen talking cooking, and I was in the kitchen with them talking cooking because I was much more interested in that, and that was like the first break off. And so just you bring that up and I'm like, oh, I feel that, and I feel like I have never fit into the male group.
Yeah, my dad has had that experience a lot throughout my whole growing up. He's always been much more comfortable with the women parents of my friends than with the guys.
Because, they're talking sports and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, in the groups I was hanging out with, they weren't really talking about sports. But even so, there's just, it's interesting seeing which groups in which those lines are easy and which groups in which those lines are very warbly and not at all along gender lines. But I think that that's what Faile's doing here. She's saying, okay, the men need to catch up, and we might as well exchange notes as women because,
So what do you take of Faile's advice to Perrin before she leaves? Remember, he is not your boyhood friend any longer, Perrin. At least, not only that. He is the dragon reborn. But you are Lord of the Two Rivers. I know you will stand up for yourself and for the Two Rivers.
I have no idea. I think she's completely misreading everything about the situation. And she thinks that this is some sort of negotiation between powerful men. But it's actually farm boys who are going to go, they think we're powerful men. What the fuck?
But I think she's saying, yes, that might be what the conversation is, but don't forget, you are powerful men, and an off word between the two of you could affect a lot of lives.
And see, this is why I'm not in politics, because I don't understand these nuances. I think you're right, actually. I think she's worried that Perrin's going to do what I just did and be like, everything's fine, we've known each other forever. And she's like, no, it can't be that way.
It's not just that anymore.
Yeah, because even if it feels that way, like, there's no way that Rand has the allowance to be negligent of those responsibilities and duties. I mean, we don't even get through this chapter before the Lord Dragon comes out again.
Right. And he can't even visit the folks. Like, he is the dragon. He has responsibilities, and you have to be aware of that as his liege.
And you have to be willing to push back and say no as the Lord of the Two Rivers, not as the boyhood friend of the Lord Dragon.
And perhaps that's one of the reasons why he doesn't agree to go to Tyr.
Huh. Because
Faile's like, remember, you're Lord of the Two Rivers, not just Rand's errand boy.
You have responsibilities to the Two Rivers men. You can't just go gallivanting off because Rand needs you. Even though that's exactly what we did for the last 2 months. Leaving the Two Rivers was gallivanting off because Rand needs you.
Yeah, a little bit of that.
Faile has very conflicted loyalties to the world versus Perrin. Much like Perrin has conflicted loyalties for her versus the world. They are very well matched in that respect.
Next thing I have is the sort of conversation where Perrin and Rand are like, don't you know about women? No, don't you know about women? Well, I guess Matt must know about women. Why are you asking me? You're the married man.
I mean, I feel like, honestly, like, we spend a lot of time ribbing the three boys, but, like, How many of us, millennials, have looked around for an adultier adult and been terrified when only our friends were in charge? Just saying.
No comment.
So we rib them for not knowing what they're doing, but none of us know what we're doing, and we keep looking at each other for reassurance that we're doing it all right. Did you notice that you did not say what chapter we're doing and what our symbol is at the beginning?
That's because you said it.
I did?
You did.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
Because we finally get to the line that explains the title.
Yes.
A bitter thought.
A bitter thought.
Because Perrin, the bitter thought is Perrin wondering how Rand's sanity is holding up and thinking light it has to hold at least until Tarman Gaiden. Because
that's the bitter thought.
What a way to think about a friend. Please stay sane until the world is done needing you, and then you can die.
And then you can die.
Oh, everyone's heart.
One of the things that I wish Jordan talked about more is Perrin and Matt's thoughts around the fact that their boyhood friend is going to be this person who has to sacrifice themselves for the world.
Yeah, that's like...
They do a lot of, like, they just sort of ignore that. Like, I guess he's the Dragon Reborn, but I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, like, this is one of your best friends from childhood, and he is going through one of the most terrifying and traumatic experiences in the entire world, and you have no thoughts about that. I call bullshit.
Right. Yes, Matt is probably very much just avoiding the topic. Like...
And Matt avoids Rand as he avoids the topic. Okay, yes, for sure. And then Perrin comes at it from this very, let's hide behind our duty, stoic talk learned from Lan.
Right.
Lan. Such a problematic role.
Almost, and then not. And he's like, because he's so... It's a problem with role models, is they have their own issues. And Lan's own issue is he doesn't think that he is worthy... Again, talking about imposter syndrome, Lan doesn't feel worthy to date. He doesn't feel worthy to be in a relationship. Because he feels that he's just... he's a dead man walking. And it's just a matter of time. Which is fine for a warder, but not okay for a husband.
Yeah, and all three of the boys take away toxic lessons from that model. Although not all the same lessons. They take away different shitty lessons. We get 3 different angles of why that is not an appropriate approach.
Well, okay, so for Rand, I know it's send away everyone you love because you're dangerous to them. What are Perrin and Matt's?
I definitely didn't just forget. So Perrin is very hiding behind duty. He doesn't do what he wants, he does what duty demands.
You said duty.
I did say duty. And Matt doesn't want to get attached to anyone except his fellow soldiers.
So the next thing is Rand is basically saying, hey, I'm going to send you to Tyr. I can drop you off. You don't have to ride there. Like, please do this thing. And Perrin's like, no. I have to talk to someone in Camelin. Who is he talking to?
Davram? Maybe?
Gotcha.
I mean, he doesn't want to, but it's anything to avoid Rand, right? Like, using duty to escape duty.
Right. Oh, good call. Right. He has to talk to Fail's parents.
Yeah, because he's an honorable, respectable gentleman. Like, you have to talk to your in-laws at some point.
No, I don't.
Man, I wish I could talk to my in-laws. They're even more locked down than we are. My father-in-law has taken germ phobia to an Olympic sport.
I'm pretty much up there with him.
No, you are not as far up as he is. It's like you have taken logic, bent it inside out at least 3 times. No. You don't need to sanitize something, leave it alone for 3 months, and then sanitize it again. You just don't. It's ridiculous.
That's fair. Yeah. No. Yep.
But anyhow, I have great in-laws, and I would like to talk to them more. And then Perrin gets the news about Moraine. Perrin didn't know.
No. He says,
this
what does
whole
Moraine
time.
say? Yeah.
He was walking this whole 2 months. He expected Moraine to pop out from behind a column any minute. And, she's been dead for, months.
But she's
not dead, but,
not dead. Yeah.
As far as the trauma in Rand's life, he's moved on past that. And Perrin is hearing the news by for the first time.
Right before that is a little line. Have you heard of the prophet, Perrin? No matter. No matter. It's not gonna.
He's
not
no
gonna be a
worse
problem
than the
for you.
rest. This
no worse
is
than the rest.
No development on the plot. Absolutely will not
Nope.
warp everything to do with your story arc for the next 70,000 books. Nope.
No foreshadowing whatsoever. Nope.
0.
And so, but we do get that Moraine killed Lanfear.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an end to that. Never going to come up again in the series.
Nope.
Not Lanfear, not Moraine.
Period. End of story.
Period.
Stop.
End of story. Don't even think about it. God, Jordan loves to prove his characters wrong.
Oh, yeah. He's like, look, this character believes something with 3 pieces of evidence. Watch how I destroy everything. So good. And then Perrin asks about Alana and Varen, because they're Aes Sedai, and Rand's like, okay, been there, done that, got the trauma bond, not going back to that.
And don't forget that Perrin and Alana and Varen hung out for a while in the Two Rivers, right? Like, those are the 2 Aes Sedai that he spent quite a bit of time with.
Right, he can't quite make himself trust them, but, like, if you need an Aes Sedai's advice, better those 2 than anybody else.
Right. And don't forget, Alana's been properly cowed by Faile.
Mm-hmm.
If you bond him, I will cut you, bitch.
Yes. Yeah, but Rand is sitting there like, I'm just finally getting used to having been rape bonded. So, no. I'm not telling you why, but no.
Right. Yeah, he's not so much... Varen's not really on his good person list. On his shit list, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, Moraine named Varen as an untrustable Aes Sedai in her letter. So it's like... No. And I'm back. Okay, that was my internet flickering because it's storming out here. And the power went out in the whole house for a second.
Oh, okay. So, like, your router had to reboot and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But because I'm on a laptop with battery power, the recording is completely uninterrupted. So
Awesome. Cool.
I was singing the Wallace and Gromit theme song. Like, it was great.
Oh, excellent. I will... maybe I'll try and open up the episode with that. 'Cause
Wait, was it the Wallace and Gromit theme song? I think it was. Whatever. Anyhow, we're back. Hey. Let's try to get this done before my power goes out for real.
Right, we've got like 1 page left. Come on, we can do it.
Okay, so yeah, we were talking about the Aes Sedai. Rand thinking that he can play 3 sides of Aes Sedai off of each other.
That the tower split is the best thing that could have ever happened to him. Do you agree with that, even though it's the Dark Friends plot?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, by creating a power vacuum, it lets him sort of step into it.
And it diffuses their ability to focus on him, because they're as much focused on each other as on the phenomena known as the Dragon Reborn. So the Aes Sedai are split. It's kind of like Ramonda and Lelaine
maybe I'll try and
in
open up the
Egwene's
episode
Hall,
with that.
but at a bigger scale.
Right. Let the Lord of Chaos rule.
Yeah, totally. So I think in this respect, like, if the Black Aja had been more effective, if Elida had been more effective, really, then I think this would have been bad for Rand, but because the Dark Friends are so ineffective, it ends up being a really good thing. I think that was definitely a major toss of the dice.
I mean, the only thing I'll say is the split of the tower does allow them to do the whole kidnapping thing, which is not great for Rand.
No, it is not. But at the same time, like, might they not have done something as damaging? I guess not under Swan. Swan never would have done anything that ridiculous. But she could have been ousted.
Well, I mean, I can still see Moraine and Swan trying to manipulate Rand into doing exactly what they wanted. And maybe causing some real problems.
But probably not quite as traumatizing to Rand himself.
Probably not. Not unless Moraine actually slept with him.
Right, yeah, we have zero idea where that would have gone. But
well, we have
bad
some idea.
directions.
We know at least from her vision it would not have gone well.
This is true, yes. We know that it would not have gone anywhere good.
Yes. Like, we can rule out the whole good side of things.
But I mean, do you think that there's any world in which the tower would have been an asset to Rand? Or would have, like, yeah, can you imagine that?
Codswain as Amberlin? No, I really can't.
Yeah, so I think that the tower fighting amongst itself was the best thing that could have happened for him.
I mean, maybe in a world where Ishamael was fully sealed away and the Black Aja hadn't got established and the Black Tower was a completely different, like, institution. Like, the White Tower, like, but the White Tower as it exists when we encounter it with Rand, no. I can't ever imagine them being a helpful group.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Not with all the prejudices and the politics and everything else going on.
Yeah, if you take out Ishamael's influence, that is an entirely different kettle of fish.
Oh, so if the story was completely different, yes, yeah.
This is also one of those alternate realities where people actually talk to each other. So, there really wouldn't be any conflict to make a story out of at all.
Moraine did her best to tie cords to me until I forced her to stop, and truth to tell, I'm not so sure she stopped then. Yeah, she definitely didn't.
No, though I do think he ascribes more negative, nefarious intent to it than Moraine actually was bringing to the table.
That's an interesting look, because, like, if someone's trying to control you, they obviously think they're doing it for the best. Like, how nefarious is it? Well, I guess they're trying to control you for your benefit or for their benefit.
Right. I mean, are you trying to control Rand so that way he sabotages saving the world, or are you trying to control him so that way he remembers laughter and tears when it comes time for the final confrontation?
Okay, Cotswain.
I'm just saying, like, I feel like Moraine was trying to tie strings to him by which she could feed him political strategy that he would trust, not trying to get him to sabotage himself,
I go back to the arguments they had when they were in the Mountains of Mist. Just the months of just constant arguing.
Yeah.
That she I don't know. I feel like we overlook that because, like, at the end of The Great Hunt, before The Dragon Reborn, we have, like, almost 6 months that go by, which is a huge amount of time in a 2-year series.
Yeah.
And that's Rand and Moraine arguing for most of that, and talking, and strategizing, and...
Yeah.
I know it's not very big in the books, but it is huge in the timeline.
That's a really good point. I've never thought about what that period of time meant for their relationship and their strategy and their conflict. I never really considered that they probably spent the first few months having far more substantive arguments before getting to the impasse that we open Dragon Reborn with.
Right. I mean, the things we see is, like, yes, they've argued over the same 3 points. Also, like, he's not really shared any of his plans with her, which is kind of
right. Shitty. But yeah, we don't see a huge portion of the time that they spend together. We don't see it.
Right.
We just see his frustration and Perrin's empathy with Rand's frustration. That's a really, really good point. Like, I always am in Team Moraine. She meant the best, and she was probably on a good track. But, like, yeah, that's a useful perspective.
One of the things the podcast showed me is just how much of the series happens during the Great Hunt.
Right?
Between the whole 3-month flicker, and this, like, 6 months at the end in the Mountains of Mist, the whole book is only slightly over 2 years, and 9 months of that is in one book.
It does make understanding the characters challenging sometimes. Man, Jordan, didn't you understand in your heart of hearts this was going to be a 14-book series?
No, he did not.
No, he thought it was going to be 6. Maybe with an epilogue or an Outrigger trilogy or something. None of this...
Well, I mean, this was back in the days when a series was 3 books.
A quartet was for, like, young adults or whatever.
And Jordan was going to go crazy and write 2 of those, and go to 6 books. Like, who did 6 books? That's too many.
Yeah.
For one story? If you can't wrap it up in a trilogy, you're wasting your time.
Yeah. It shows in the timeline. It really does. And it shows in the character development, because it's so easy for us who are reading to show off how smart we are to come up with very shallow reads from end stage characters rather than truly appreciating that the number of books does not correlate to the number of months contained.
No, not in the slightest.
That's good to remember. Got Perrin giving Rand some very farmy advice about bulls and bears, and you're an idiot for standing in the middle.
Cheer the bull or cheer the bear. Cheer both and you'll be trampled and eaten. I feel like there's a couple of statements like that where it's like, don't be the guy stuck in the middle between 2 superpowers.
I think Linny and Swan also both have sayings that say virtually the same thing.
Right.
At least Linny does, but I think Swan also does.
Maybe a common experience among country folk to get caught in the middle of 2 superpowers deciding their fate.
It's not great to be a pleb when empire builders clash.
Not great. No.
Not great. No, the Romans had a real tough several centuries of it. Like, not good times.
Then we get some sort of just updating on Emmons Field.
Oh, yeah. This extremely melancholy, warm and cozy with creeping spider webs of death around the edge. It's so sad and it's so sweet.
What makes it sad? I don't get that.
Because they're talking... It's the line, tell me what's changed, Perrin. Tell me what's the same. Because Rand can't go back. Rand can't experience it. He has to get it all from Perrin.
Until he gets Morden's body, and then...
Well, right, but he's not currently anticipating that. He thinks this is the closest he's ever going to get to home again, is having Perrin tell him what's changed and what stayed the same. And, then Perrin tells him, and Rand has a very similar experience to Nynaeve and Egwene when they visit Intel Iran Riyadh. Like, Elaine just sees a town that's growing, whereas Nynaeve and Egwene are like, what has happened?
Right.
How is all this development happening? Like, I just turned around and there's a whole new suburb and a strip mall. What is going on?
My favorite line is, at times Rand sounded his old self, laughing over how all the women had been so hard against Terabana or Damane dresses in the beginning, and now were divided into those who would wear nothing but good, stout Two Rivers dresses, and those who would cut theirs up for rags.
The Nynaeves and the Egwenes.
Yeah, except Nynaeve is also wears Damani dresses and Terabana dressers, and also never touches good, quote-unquote, Two Rivers woolens.
Nynaeve is an Egwene, but she won't admit it. I like this callback to the fact that Nynaeve is very much embodying what her entire home community is going through.
I love this description of mustaches.
Oh, yeah.
A number of the younger men were growing mustaches like Terabana or Damani, occasionally with an almost plain goatee as well, which made the unwise wearer look as though a small animal had latched on under his nose.
It's so true, though.
It's so true.
It's so true.
Don't wear a fucking goatee. No one in a goatee looks good, and even Jordan knew that.
Oh my god, I have a hard time keeping track of all the different facial hair combinations that exist in the world, but there are some that just do not need to be replicated, people with facial hair. Just the soul patch all by itself. Just peel my skin off. It's so bad. Don't do that. My husband really likes doing kind of like a casual, redneck sort of thing, where it's...
Yeah, I've seen that.
It's very Pacific Northwest, and it's low maintenance and easy to accomplish. So I'm like, okay, fine. The ease of access, I get it, but...
I wouldn't fuck somebody with that hairstyle.
I'm not yet handy enough with hair manipulation implements to exert my opinions properly. It's one of those, if you can't help, then maybe keep your criticisms to yourself.
All it takes is some clippers on the lowest setting, and you can help with that soul patch. Bzz, bzz, bzz.
It's just... This whole thing where kissing Velcro is really uncomfortable.
Right, yeah. I've had that. That's one of the reasons why I don't shave, is because my hair grows, I shave, and by the time I'm out of the bathroom, I have stubble.
Yeah, this is one of the many reasons I don't bother shaving my legs. By the time I'm finished with one leg, the other one is already bristly again. It's no fucking point.
Right. And I prefer slightly hairy legs to bristly legs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get out day 4 or 5, everything's fine, but those first 3 days,
miserable.
You will pay in blood.
Right, and your partner will pay in blood.
Yeah, it's awful. It's really and that's the thing is you have to pick the hair length that is easy enough to maintain, that it works for you, but also that doesn't involve being uncomfortable an undue amount of the time. My husband and I are both very lazy, so...
One final question. What the fuck does Rand want Perrin to go to Tyr for?
I think it's trying to replicate what they're doing with Matt by being where's the real focus of the military? Because there's 3 different people who could be in charge of the real attack. I think, but we never see it play out, and we don't see the lack of it playing out being a problem, so I'm not convinced.
I have no idea. I did some research before this. I could not figure out. I was like, why the f*** does he want Perrin to go to Tyr? No idea.
Maybe Metal Datura's onto something to keep the High Lords in tier in check, given the rebellion situation.
But he has Darlin.
Does he at this point? Is Darlin on board at this point?
Or is he still rebelling?
I think Darlin's rebelling at this point.
Yeah, you're right.
So I think that might be what it is. It's a matter of, like, things are falling apart in tier, and if I put one of my two dudes there, then maybe that will hold it together. But obviously that's not necessary. We don't see any real fallout from Perrin's refusal to do that.
Before Dumai's Wells and with Samael, Rand has a lot of plans, and because they never happen, we never really get to understand what they are. Because they get interrupted by Dumai's Wells.
Yeah.
And the kidnapping.
Yeah, and then he has to reshuffle everything on a completely altered playing board.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, we're down to, like, T-minus 3 months to the last battle. And yeah, I think it's just Rand trying to exert control through people he thinks are loyal, because he knows Perrin's not a dark friend.
And at this point, he rules, 3 countries? Tyr, Caemlyn, and Cairhien.
Right. He's still headed to deal with Ilion. That's part of what Matt and the band were doing before he sent Matt to Saladar. So the band is still headed on towards Ilion. No, it's not. It's Alden. But it was headed to Ilion.
So I can see where he's like, all right, I've got 3 countries to rule. I want to put Perrin in Tyr. I want Elaine in Caemlyn, and I will rule Cairhien.
And Matt will run around and kick ass on command.
Right.
It's a good plan, honestly. Like, if not for being completely overconfident with the Aes Sedai, it would have worked. Well, and if Perrin had agreed, which he doesn't.
Which he doesn't. And if Matt had brought Elaine back, which he doesn't.
Right.
Doesn't. Which he didn't. Don't.
Won't?
What's future won't? Thank you.
Words are hard, especially after 2.5 hours.
The future tense of won't.
Will not.
Will not. And so then he says you'll only be the 4th person to know the real plan. Who are the other 3? Rand.
Matt, Davram.
And Rand.
Rand. So yeah, it would be the 3 Two Rivers boys and Davram Bashir, who is both one of Rand's closest advisors and Perrin's father-in-law. So he's basically one of the family at this point. And yeah, Rand is, I can't protect you or Matt, but I can protect the Two Rivers men. And Perrin's like, well, that's a fucking bummer, friendo.
And then we sort of end the chapter, which is a bit of an awkward cut, because the next chapter continues on with their meeting. It's not really a definitive cut. It's more like, yeah, this is getting long. Let's go ahead and split this in the middle.
And I think it's a little bit of a narrative beat, right? Because they're talking and they're reminiscing, and then they kind of get back to the here and now. And there's a little bit of sitting and staring at their hands for a moment.
Right.
And that's where the chapter break is. Like, okay, we've gotten through the fun, warm fuzzies. Now we got to get back to the, like, hard grittiness of the plot. And I think that's why that's there. But yeah, there's a lot of those chapters in this book where Harriet was just like, Robert, you need to make a chapter break.
There is, yeah.
Or Jim, I guess she was probably telling him Jim.
She probably said Jim, yes, yeah. Or Honey.
But yeah, I think.
Or,
just throw a pin at a list. That's where we're putting the chapter break.
Right. This is one of those awkward chapter breaks where we just continue on with the next one in the next episode of Wheel of Time Spoilers. This is the return of Perrin.
Yeah, he's been gone for what, a book and a half?
A book and 3/4. I mean, we saw him briefly at the beginning of this book. We got one portion of a chapter POV from Perrin, being like, "Oh, I'm on my way to where Rand needs me. I'm going," But like that's been it.
But the last time that we saw him was after the Battle of the Two Rivers in Shadow Rising. Right?
Yeah.
He's been completely absent from the story up until this chapter.
Totally.
Well, up until the beginning of this book, and meaningfully up until this chapter. And he shows up just in time to, like, get incorporated for the whole Dumai's Wells thing.
Taviran.
Yeah.
Viren.
Yeah. He responds well to the Taviran tugging.
Taviran tugging?
Tugging.
Tugging.
No, they're not tugging. They are strutting wide open and free, one might say.
We did a bunch of talking about our lives before we turned on recording. I don't know if there's anything that we wanted to repeat for recording or anything you wanted to throw on there. I'm eating a delicious noodle dish.
Yeah, you're eating amazing homemade noodles. We highly endorse homemade noodles. I gave a whole little mini lecture on atmospheric rivers because we're both experiencing one. The TLDR is that atmospheric science is awesome and you should go read up on it. Show up for live recordings.
The TLDR reading was, hey, it's raining really hard outside and you may hear it during the recording.
Oh yeah, that's also the relevant part. You might hear rain in both of our windows from the same event, even though we're in different locations.
Right, yeah, we're freaking a couple hours apart.
Yeah, I don't know how much rain you got in Portland, but I do know that farther north in Washington, there was like up to 4 inches of rain last night. And then down here where I'm at, we had got over 2 inches. So you're probably somewhere in the middle with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
And it's still pouring. We're supposed to get another 2 inches tonight. We're supposed to get 2 inches today and 2 inches tonight. So, it's moist over here in the Pacific Northwest.
Watch continues.
Yeah, our creek is definitely coming back up to the last high water mark and maybe cresting it. Wahaha.
I'm doing a quick weather search. I'm amazed, actually, I don't check weather the way I used to. I'd be, much more concerned with it. I feel like I'm just oh, it's raining. Oh, well, walking outside.
So let's see, up in Portland, we're looking at yesterday, you guys got up to 1.5 inches in the Portland area, according to the Citizen Science Network that I'm a part of. But up in Washington, in Puget Sound area, some people got, okay, that's broken. Someone put in a number. Nobody got 7.8 inches. I reject that reality. All the other numbers are right around 3.5, 4.1.
I'm seeing a lot of way out there, we may get up to blah. And I'm may, but
yeah. Sometimes people just misenter their data and you have to go back in and correct it and be I think you missed your decimal point there. Thanks. Or there's one out in Eastern Washington that says 6.5 and everything else around it is 0.65 and it's no.
Nope. Well, and inches is such a terrible way to measure rain. 2 inches doesn't seem like a lot of rain. But it's imagine 2 inches of water on the ground everywhere.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So I just dropped a link in live recording. If you guys go to that, it will be a nifty interactive map where you can see citizen science reports from the U.S., bits of the Caribbean, and also Canada. And yeah, you can see the rain just by looking at the color ramp on said map. It's a very nifty network.
What's the time range? Is it always 24 hours? Or
Yes. This is an official 24-hour rain day that refreshes at 7 a.m. So that is yesterday's 24-hour interval from 7 a.m. to 7 a.m.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's going to be a lot bigger today.
Yeah, that red color is going to be a lot more widespread for tomorrow's data.
Ooh, that's sitting at 1 inch from yesterday, and yesterday was nothing compared to today. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we're quite a bit more. I want to refill my wine glass, and then I want to dig into this chapter.
All right. Go get the wine.
I'll be back. I have an interesting read. I want to do a sort of delayed read-in for this one.
Okay, cool. While he's getting his wine, I'll just let you guys all know that Broken or Spoilers is starting to chug along again. I got some recording done yesterday. I got some recording done today. Some editing done yesterday and today. I'm getting that show back on the road. Definitely working on it. It's been a while, but it's coming back. So if anyone here was sad about that not being a thing, coming along. A new person joined that Discord, actually, who had found me organically. I got another wild one. That makes me happy. I measure my rain in cowboy boots like any real American. That is a very American unit of measure. Yes.
Really? Because I thought it was, you just measured in millimeters, right? It's simple. You just take your gun, point it up into the rain, and however many bullets worth of rain you get in there, that's how many millimeters of liquid you get. That's the most American way to measure water, is with your gun.
I mean, I can't see any way to argue with that, so... Yeah, may have. All that Canadian niceness is running off on you.
357 or the rain.
You're drinking wine tonight, huh?
Yeah, I've been on a wine kick lately. The beer has been filling me up too much, to be perfectly honest. Am I getting old? Maybe.
Maybe. Possibly.
I know. Also, this box of wine is a great deal.
Beer is expensive. It's really true. We really want to get into just buying kegs and like having a tap in our counter because we're homeowners
Yeah.
and we can do that now. But
Well, I built one of those, so let me know if you need any help with.
it's a really good. I should definitely hit you up for that because we are all kinds of contemplating kitchen remodels right now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, no, my kegerator was nice, and I brewed for it a lot, but eventually when I brewed less, I just would go to the brewery and be like, "Can you fill my keg up?"
right, yeah, totally. It's way less packaging for the exact same product.
And cheaper. I used to go to can't remember where the place was, one of the breweries around here, and they'd fill up my keg for $70, and that's 5 gallons of beer for $70.
I don't even have to do math to know that's a good deal.
Right? It's one of those things where you're like, that's a lot of beer.
Right?
Not that. It's what it is. It's about 40 pints of beer.
Yeah.
Is the math I did at one point. So
40 pints of beer for $50 is a really fucking good deal.
Right. Especially when you can serve it out of your own keg at home, and just the convenience is so great.
Yeah. And you're not creating all that packaging and all the carbon footprint
No.
and moving all the glass all over the place.
You're literally creating no packaging.
Yes, this is the way to do it. Just commit to the alcoholism and buy a damn keg.
And you need a kegerator too, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you
yeah.
need the refrigeration and then the taps. So the question is, are you looking at installing a separate fridge for your kegs, or are you going to try and keep those in your existing refrigerator? Like, how do you plan on carbonating them?
Right. Well, it's definitely not going in our damn fridge. That's
right.
Our fridge is a piece of shit.
So what you're going to have to do is look at getting a fridge that will hold the kegs, and then you can drill holes in to run the lines to and from. Yeah,
we went to Bimart one time and saw a micro fridge that had a different top like installed on it, specifically for college dorms to have like a pony kegerator thing. It's
those are terrible.
Oh my god, this is too much. So yeah.
No, and there's actually I'm sure you guys would love to get into buying all the like ridiculous like taps and hardware and stuff like that. Yeah, okay,
Oh yeah. Yeah, we should definitely be tapping your well of information on that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about size and pressure, and line length is very important, line quality. If you've got a dime to spend, I cannot recommend silicone tubing high enough. It's way more expensive, but the vinyl tubing you have to replace on a pretty regular basis. Silicone tubing you can just boil.
I like not having to replace things. That's very, very plus.
Right. So So if I can recommend tubing, like it's one of those things where like you'll be like, ooh, silicone tubing is like 3 times as much. I'm like, yeah, but you never ever have to replace it again.
Which means that it's actually way fucking cheaper.
Way cheaper. And again, talking about waste and all that kind of stuff. Like, silicone, to me, I don't know this for sure, but silicone seems more environmentally friendly than just vinyl. But that is entirely something I have no basis for whatsoever.
But nothing that I know disagrees with that. That checks out.
Because silicone to me feels much more like an element, whereas vinyl feels like a product. Yeah.
Yeah, it's synthesized shenanigan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And not to mention, like, do you want your beer going through nasty vinyl tubes, or do you want it going through, like, totally non-reactive silicone tubes?
See, I have silicone spatula to cook with, and I don't have vinyl spatula to cook with.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Now, heat's a difference. Like, obviously, this is cold, so vinyl's, like, fine.
Fair, but the principle of the thing.
The principle of the idea. Mm-hmm. Yes, quite.
Quite.
So, but yeah, we'll have to talk about, like, what space you have to store the keg, or to store the fridge. Now, so, okay, here's my favorite thing to do. You buy a chest freezer, because they're just a big open space with a compressor in them. You pull out the temperature controller in them and replace it with a digital one that you can buy for, like, $15, and you just wire it up. Or I can show you. I'm sure that someone in your household would enjoy wiring up a temperature controller for the freezer.
Somebody, I'm sure.
Somebody, I can imagine. would totally be up for that. And then so you just plug that. You can either you can either swap out the temperature controller in the freezer for your own digital one, or you can create like a box with 2 plugs in it, so you can plug into the box and then plug the box into the wall, and the box controls power to the freezer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you just have a chest freezer, and you can slide that in, drill a couple of holes in it, or we can talk about making a collar. That's the other thing. Well, there's a lot of options. You need to give me some details so I can narrow down the options for you.
Well, now that I know you're going to get all hot and bothered when I mention installing a kegerator.
Oh, yeah, no. Ooh, baby, you have no idea.
I thought you had all the hot nudes on your end, but apparently...
Do we want to talk about keg types?
Maybe after nobody else is watching.
Is that? Can we talk about keg types after?
Anyway.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or
support us on Patreon.